Hey YouTube, I'm your host Kurt Brown. This is The Watch Factor and you are in the news. In today's episode, I want to take a look at the latest release that came from MB&F about a week or two ago, as far as when I became aware of it, called the Horological Machine number 11, specifically the Architect. This is a watch that, to my knowledge, we didn't see coming, but stays within the DNA and the design aesthetics or historical DNA of MB&F. The Architect looks like a spaceship, but Max explains as I look online that the inspiration actually comes from 1950s architecture and specifically homes for that matter. So let's dig in. Let's look at some of these specific details around the watch, and then let's talk a little bit about the overall look, the price point, and is this something you would want to consider in your collection? And do you agree that the direction in MB&F continues to make sense, or is it time for a shift into a different direction? So let's dig right on in. Let me ask you this question. How many brands are really challenging the industry with futuristic and creative designs? I could probably count on one hand, but keep in mind there are tens of thousands of brands, registered brands, that exist today. You know, while brands are emulating current trends and design aesthetics of like AP with the integrated bracelet, with the waffle hobnail dials, you know, Max is continuing to trail a path that's kind of uncharted. It's kind of limited by his own mental boundaries, but other than that, he envisions it, he produces it, and he pushes it out. And that's kind of one of the things that I love about Max, is that he remains dedicated to driving his brand along the rails of what he considers to be kind of true for himself. There hasn't been too many brands that have been able to kind of have the level of success at the level of creativity and engineering that MB&F has been on. And I think that kind of goes to the fact that Max appears to be extremely personable. His story is great. Growing through the ranks of the industry, his brand on the verge of not even really being able to stand up and become a thing, and then getting that one breakthrough of some purchases up front, if you will, that began to kind of help him build and continue to sustain itself. So I think that's one of the things about Max, is that he almost feels like your average guy that you could catch in a coffee shop with a great, Carrera on, or a great Rolex, and just start a conversation. And he's another watch guy. To start, it continues to be a limited production when it comes to the horological machines. There are two versions of this watch, each being produced at 25 pieces. Both of them are going to be in grade 5 titanium, which means they're going to be extremely lightweight on the wrist, regardless of the size. But this is where I thought it was kind of interesting. These dimensions actually show what I feel is more of a traditional timepiece in terms of size and fit and finish, 42 millimeters. That was something I didn't kind of expect coming from Max. And the fact that, I mean, quite frankly, I've been to some events where I've seen guys that are on that are wearing shirts and the watch just kind of sticks right off to the side, but it's an MB&F and you look cool, and I must give you your points for it. So I wonder if this was feedback. I wonder if this was testing the waters of maybe what something else could be. It's crazy to think that when we talk about actual case sizes for this brand, it could actually be an indication of a future direction. But because of what MB&F has produced in the past, it's only fair to kind of think that way. They're going to be 25 pieces each. The first set is going to be what he's calling a blue dial plate, a very vibrant blue at the center base and core of the watch that you can see through the sapphire crystal from the top view. And then a very kind of luxurious looking rose gold color for the second dial plate. Now the rose gold is going to come in on looks like kind of an army green strap, and from what I can see, it looks like it's maybe a Velcro versus maybe going with his traditional kind of rubber. And then the blue dial plate is going to be on a cream style strap. There's 92 components that make up this watch. No surprise there. I did think it was interesting that the power reserve is 96 hours. I mean, to be quite frank, I kind of go, I appreciate you making sure that it can go more than 3 days. 4 days is actually great. Do I think you could probably raise the bar on that? Yes, but at the end of the day, these are probably watches that you wear for a couple of days, and then you're probably off to wearing your next piece if you're the type of person that buys this. This is not a one watch type of purchase for folks who like this type of brand. The sapphire crystal is on top, back, and what he's calling each chamber display, and we'll dig more into what that chamber display actually looks like. Everything is anti-reflective coating on both faces. At 198,000 Swiss francs, this watch is definitely not affordable for the average Joe, but in a world where we've seen Rolexes that clearly exceed $500,000, we're still in a world of Richard Mille, where we're seeing, $500,000 to $1 million, and everything in between, for a watch that, again, is not taking inspiration from anything that has ever existed before, for a watch that has levels of engineering and breakthroughs that you've never seen before. 198,000 is kind of affordable in that regard. So do you think the watch is actually desirable? I struggle in a sense of who's the actual market for this type of watch. Is it the same guy that wants a watch by Jacob & Co? Is it a guy that wants, something historical and classic, but it's still a breakthrough in engineering from A. Lange & Söhne? Or is it the guy that's like, hey, I want to be so unique that truly no one will have my watch, even if you kind of make what I make? And so I think that's something that I continue to think about. As I was digging into this video and kind of looking at some information, I found some snippets of feedback that Max talked about, and he spoke of like the fact that not everyone is a MB&F fan, not everyone is a true buyer, but those that are, they go deep into the brand. They've got multiple pieces. They're always excited to find out what's the next release. It's an expression of who they are. They tend to be entrepreneurs, self-made kind of guys or girls who really want something that says, I am unique and I am kind of stretching bounds. So it almost truly wraps their own personality when they actually select a watch. As we spoke of earlier when we talked about the different chambers, call them chambers. Some sites kind of talk of them as actual modules, but there are 4 of them all together. One giving the time, one giving a power reserve, one providing a thermometer, and then lastly, just kind of like a sapphire see-through crown to also provide kind of a side view of the watch. It's said that each module is to reflect almost a room in a house, kind of keeping that initial inspiration that he spoke of. The crown sets the time, but to actually wind the movement, you actually turn the case to wind up the 4-day power reserve, which I think is like, again, revolutionary in thought, and just something really funky to kind of see. I almost imagine the buyer of this watch literally just staring and playing with it, right? Like, this is the guy that's at the boardroom, but his head is down, and it's because he's discovering a different view of the watch. He's discovering a new component of the watch that he didn't see before. She's blown away by the fact that the watch fits so comfortably to her wrist, and she just wants to kind of see more. So I think the question is, did Max knock this one out the park? And I struggle. There is no brand that I think has had the level of success in this kind of class or category like MB&F, in my personal opinion. There have been brands that have had crazy engineering designs, but in terms of the connectivity to the consumer base, the influence on the industry of watchmaking as a whole, I don't know anyone else that has the trajectory that MB&F has. But when I look at the Horological Machine 11, I kind of feel like I see other machines pieced together. And that in no way is a jab to the engineering. You know, bar none, there's nothing comparable. I just feel like if I look at the 11 and I look at the 9, or if I come down and I look at maybe the HM8, do I not see what appears to be maybe an evolution or an extension that allow the formation of number 11? It's just my personal opinion. It's a great watch. Again, I also give kudos to Max because he could easily charge a lot more. If you think about what someone like Jacob & Co. is charging for his watches, $1 million, $10 million watches. And then there are crazy individuals who are paying for it. And I think sometimes, hear me out, sometimes I think some of Jacob's designs are more jewelry than watch, right? The fact that Max is still keeping things under $250,000 for some of his pieces and less than that for others, I think is great. I just feel like, although not expected to be expected, is it groundbreaking? No. I think it continues to be something interesting, but it didn't shake me in a way that, let's say, the sequential Evo did. His first, some of his earlier machines where you had never seen such a thing before in watchmaking. This one, I just kind of feel like, it was a fair next step. It was a safe next step. Again, will it sell out at 25 pieces? Hands down, absolutely. He has the following now that when he puts something out, most people want their hands on it. Even with some of his collaborations, like what he did with Moser, I don't see anyone not willing to acquire. I just feel like it's kind of so close to the past that it feels like the same. I wouldn't have known, if you will, that this was the latest release and it was groundbreaking, if you will, having looked at the rest of the collection. So I'd love to know what your thoughts are. If money is no issue, do you pay $200,000 to have this watch? Do you feel like, in comparison to what he's released in the past, that this is a leap and bound or just the right step? Is it almost safe? And I think that's a fair statement. Like, I kind of feel like it's safe. The power reserve at 96 hours, the rotation of the entire watch to wind it. I feel like it's safe. It's definitely an opportunity for someone who wasn't able to get a piece in the past. It's still there. If money is no option, it's not uber crazy, but I think it's okay. So anyway, that's my thoughts. Love to hear your feedback on it. Keep a lookout. Please subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you soon.